What has this offseason taught us about the direction of the wide receiver market in the NFL? What should we be keeping an eye on over the next 12 months? We're breaking that down today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. The Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Joe, happy National RIP Twitter Day to you.
Do we just call it X? Is that the deal?
X,
It's just
now?
X.
Guess that makes us a couple of X-Men. And I know how much you love your comics and cartoons.
Did you have that queued up, or was that off the cuff right there?
I had seen somebody. There's a bunch of jokes about the letter X and its implementation into what the platform formerly known as Twitter provides to users, and so they people are having a ball with it, and not necessarily everybody was happy about it. I think the uproar is entertaining. It is what it is, though, right?
Man, I just want to get news, and I want to share some thoughts from time to time.
Right.
Share some content, kind of stuff like that.
You know what I recently just found out? Your Instagram handle is not the same as your Twitter handle.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I almost tagged some poor schlep who decided it was appropriate for him to take your Twitter handle with Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can talk to him. I don't know. I don't like having those different, but that's the world I live in.
Underscore the Joe Marino or the
it's
underscore?
Instagram is the underscore Joe Marino.
Make sure everybody knows.
Yeah.
Find you.
Come
follow at the Joe Marino on Instagram. Follow him on X.
Yeah, X, the Joe Marino. We got to update the logos here on the stream.
Yeah,
here,
everything you took for granted, we're just gonna have to.
Right.
Things are in flux, but things are also in flux with the wide receiver market, Joe.
They are, Kyle. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. We're going to do it like we've done the other position groups and really talk about the dynamics of each market. But what's interesting is this has been a quiet offseason for wide receivers. And I don't think next offseason is going to be quiet. And last offseason was absolutely not quiet, but this one was fairly quiet. So we want to start by reflecting on, what the big moves were at wide receiver this offseason. And the biggest move was like Allen Lazard, 4 years, $44 million. Jacoby Myers, 4 years, $33 million. Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 years, $25.5 million.
Odell.
Yeah, Odell gets 1 year, $15 million. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 years, $26 million. Thielen, 3 years, $25 million. Everything else was pretty modest outside of that, especially when you're coming off of an offseason where you saw massive trades and extensions handed out to Devontae Adams, what Tyreek Hill got, A.J. Brown, Steph Diggs got an extension, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. All these guys got the bag, all these north of $20 million a year contracts. And this year, the highest AAV we got was 11
on a significant duration deal, right? Like, because Nuke got 2. It's like, okay, he got what, 18? No, 13.
2 years, 26, so 13.
13. Odell got 1 for 15.
Yeah.
Like the longer term deals. And I think that's funny too, because you mentioned 2021, but how about like 2022 when like Nelson Aguilar got, what was it, 11 million or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Like at least the players who got, I would take the players who got $11 million this year over the players who got $11 million 2 years ago when the cap was smaller.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger deal.
Even that Christian Kirk deal last year was a big talking point. And I mean, joke was on everybody that had a joke about it, right? Because he went out there and produced and looks like he's gonna be a nice player for them. But like that was even like $17 million a season. So it's been interesting. And, I think there's been a really nice influx of wide receiver talent into the NFL throughout the last several NFL drafts. And it's not just first round guys. You've been getting plenty of huge impact from first round guys, but it's also a lot of guys on day two that are coming in and producing right away. This isn't the NFL anymore where you draft a receiver in the first round and like 2-3 years later, they wind up mattering, like it was kind of in the 90s. These guys can come in and produce quicker. And I think that the college ranks have been quite good at populating the NFL with meaningful wide receiver talent that can produce as rookies.
Yeah. And obviously some of that has to come back to kind of the changing style of the college game, right? You see more spread offenses. You see kind of that's the focus, and the 7-on-7 culture has kind of seeped its way up now, where I think a lot of these receivers are more well equipped for what it takes to win and play at a high level at the NFL, with kind of learning the nuances earlier as young players and then getting that reinforcement in college. And obviously the league's own evolutions of how it plays offensive football and the prevalence of 11 personnel. And kind of the test now isn't, can you get open and catch the football? The test now for the uniqueness is, because so many guys have better route running in my mind and kind of have are more prepared for that component of it. It's what else can you do? And that's what makes the players unique. It's no longer, okay, like you're going to be a slot guy, or okay, you're going to be an outside guy and you're going to run this route tree and fit within our offense. It's what else can you really bring to the table? Or maybe are you a bigger bodied player that can do some of the same things as a wide receiver? Like that's where the uniqueness is of it now. It's no longer, oh, this guy's really unique because he runs routes and he's going to be able to separate against NFL defenders early on in his career, because you're seeing a lot of that.
Dude, this makes me want to go back all the way to high school. And just, I'm thinking about watching high school football throughout my life. And, my brother played at Sun Valley High School in North Carolina, and Sun Valley High School is significant for a couple of reasons. But I'll start with this. When my brother played there in the late 90s, they didn't throw the football at all. I mean, if you saw 3, 4, 5 passing attempts, that was a pass-heavy game. And, it was sweep right, sweep left, right? And that was pretty much how it was against everyone that they faced. And this is the late 90s. Fast forward, Sun Valley High School produced Sam Howell, who threw the football all the time, right? All the time. And the quarterback that was before Sam Howell was Kevin Saxon, who's now one of Andy Reid's assistant coaches. So like that, dude, do you realize what that, like in less than 30 years of high school football, you went from not throwing the football to now having an NFL starter and an NFL assistant coach offensively for the best offense in the league.
And a lot of that is because 7-on-7 culture, you now play more often. The focus in which you are honing your skills is totally different. And what do we have now? We have a dearth of offensive line talent. Everybody needs better offensive line.
Right.
But everybody's got a guy that can run routes. It is a testament to how all of this does tie together. And I think it's really interesting too. You listen to a lot of coaches talk. They talk about how a lot of concepts trickle up in football.
Yes.
The new ideas and the experimentation and stuff. Coaches reference a lot of that stuff that starts at the lower levels and then works its way up. And now you're seeing that with kind of the culture of the game and the positions that players are primed and prepared to make an impact sooner in.
Yeah. I think it's for the good, though. I'll say that. I think it's good. Like, simplifying football. I'll never forget the quote from Lincoln Riley. If your system isn't quarterback friendly, then your system's bad. Like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to make this harder than it has to be on these players? So it's been a fascinating evolution here when it comes to the wide receiver market, and a lot of very interesting expiring contracts that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And folks, it's so easy to create a free job post over at LinkedIn Jobs. And then once you do, you add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And then simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
So our objective now is to look forward. We've reviewed what happened. We have 2024 upcoming expiring contracts, contract extension eligible players. And Joe, you kind of teased this when you said you think 2024 will be much more active in the wide receiver market than 2023. And that's because you've got just to start, you have 2/3 of the Cincinnati Bengals vaunted 11 personnel wide receiver room.
Yeah.
That is expiring contracts. And there's no 5th-year option for T. Higgins. Like, that's not on the table. So I think that the T. Higgins one is I think, especially interesting when you consider what they're probably going to have to pay Jamar Chase and getting ready for the Joe Burrow extension. And Tyler Boyd is 30, and he's a slot receiver, and he's been handsomely rewarded as being a slot receiver. I'll be mocking wide receivers to Cincinnati early because I don't think they're both coming back, right?
Kyle, you sold it short. Tyler Boyd's also an expiring contract. So Higgins and Boyd are expiring. Then Jamar Chase, they have to get the 5th-year option thing figured out. Yeah. So, like, are you really going to live in a world where Burrow is north of 50, Chase is north of 25, and Higgins is around there, 20 to 25?
You might, but that means you're definitely not bringing back Tyler Boyd, and you'll be bringing in a day 2 wide receiver.
Right. I'm sure they would love for Charlie Jones to show some flashes this year as a successor to Tyler Boyd. But yeah, I think the Bengals certainly have a lot to consider with their wide receivers. Another big name in terms of young guys is Michael Pittman with the Colts, who was a draft pick of theirs, who's produced despite very inconsistent options at quarterback. And I'm sure that they will love to pair him with Anthony Richardson for a long time. So that's another big one. You've got other guys. Darnell Mooney, yeah, if he's healthy, produces this year. That's another name. Calvin Ridley.
I didn't realize Mooney's still on his rookie deal.
Why do I feel like he signed something? But you're probably right.
I just know Over the Cap has his APY at $894,000. Yeah, 2020.
Wow. You've got Calvin Ridley. That obviously could be ultimate a really good situation
there, right?
Yeah. Mike Evans. I mean, if Hop's getting 13, if Odell's getting 15, come on. Like, there's going to be some money out there for Evans. Marquise Brown, they traded a first-round pick for him. I know that was a different regime, but
so the interesting thing about Hollywood is that was not the group that brought him in,
right?
But who else are you paying right now? Kyler, who you might be getting ready to, if you're as bad as we think you are, and you have a chance to draft Caleb Williams.
DJ Humphries is who you're paying,
right? So
Zach Ertz.
If you were the Cardinals and you were told you could sign Hollywood Brown right now, but you have to give him the Christian Kirk contract, are you taking it?
I take too much exception with Hollywood Brown and like putting a lot into him, given his stature, the injury history. I would probably lean into some other players.
So you would not sign him to the Christian Kirk contract?
I wouldn't do it, even though I think that's
in the midst of a rising tide of wide receiver salaries.
Correct. I wouldn't do it because there's also a rising tide of young players coming into the league.
Okay.
You've also got Gabe Davis, who I think is going to fall into that Lazard Myers world, around $11 million a season. So we'll see. fifth-year option choices, Kyle. How about these? Jamar Chase, Jaylen Waddle, Devonta Smith. And then there's like Kadarius Toney and Rashad Bateman,
See,
who,
Tony already tweaked his knee.
in other news, water is wet.
And Bateman did not report for like 24 hours.
It's like
showed up.
the two guys that needed to do the most, right?
Yeah, at least Bateman's like, you're optimistic that one will smooth over quickly.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy.
But he's got to stay healthy and play.
Didn't Lamar even say, like, who's wide receiver one? He's like, Rashad Bateman. Not Zay Flowers, not Odell.
Let me ask you this. Is there anything that Kadarius Toney could do right now that you would justify giving him the fifth-year option, knowing that it is fully guaranteed money? And same question for Rashad Bateman.
Dude, no, there's no chance. If I'm Kansas City and I saw what Pat did after trading away Tyreek Hill, I'm not going to be that interested in committing to a receiver that has significant availability issues.
Now do Baltimore with Rashad Bateman.
I just drafted Zay Flowers in the first round. I mean, I feel like I don't know, dude.
I would have a really hard time even if they're fully healthy this year, right? Because the sample size of when they will have been fully healthy and available,
right? It's not
and
good.
The cost of that fifth-year option, even as just a base level 1 or level 2 fifth-year option price, it's not cheap.
No,
it's not going to be cheap.
Not with those extensions that were signed last offseason.
Right. So if you go out and you're healthy in year 3, and then you go out and you play healthy in year 4, like, I would just try and get something done long-term. But you would have to prove it to me in consecutive years, and to have to make the decision after what would be the first healthy year for either player with the kind of guaranteed money that you're talking about with the growth of the wide receiver market, I wouldn't have the appetite to do it. I don't think I would do either one.
On the contrary, Chase, Waddle, and Smith, you could do those yesterday. You can do those right now. You don't need to see the 2023 season. Those are done deals.
Right, because the production for those three has been super prolific. Chase doing what he did in spite of missing a month with an injury that for other players might have ended their season, and came back. I mean, all they did was marvel about how fast of a healer he is.
How do you think? Okay, Chase, and obviously we're a long way away from really getting into this, but how do you think he ages in the NFL? Because he has like elite play strength, right? Elite play strength. He's very body control. He's got good hands, like good with the ball in his hands. He's a pretty good route runner, but like, how does that skill set age?
Can I invoke a name here?
Would love you to. I was hoping for nothing more than that whenever I asked the question.
What do you think about Dez Bryant?
It's not a bad parallel, and I didn't like late stage Dez Bryant.
Right. I think that's the question is, if you're Jamar, your hope is you don't incur that injury, right? That injury that removes some of the dynamic explosiveness that would compound slowing you down on top of you aging. Now, that's not anything that Cincinnati has to worry about right now or with your second contract.
Right.
I think it's more of a middle of your third contract question. So I think like the next 5 years, and Dez put up elite production in the NFL through his 6th. He led the league in touchdowns in his 5th season. And then he played half a year, but he had good production that year. And that he kind of bounced back, still missed 3 games, but had 8 touchdowns and 800 yards. And then the wheels really fell off at age 30. So I think that's your window for Jamar. Is it's like, if you can avoid that injury that saps you in your late 20s, I think you'll be good until you're in your early 30s.
I'll say this about Jamar Chase. If I'm him, I'm becoming best friends with Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that type of evolution would be your best case scenario there, obviously, right? I mean, that's not close, but I think that you can see some evolution parallels there that would make a lot of sense.
Well, and the good news for Jamar too is he came in the league at 21.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's with Joe Burrow.
Yes. So I think he will age incredibly well through his second contract. The
Yeah.
question is, what does kind of that 30-31 window look like as compared to you see some smaller receivers that were predicated off speed, who they might not have the same speed, but they also have the craftiness. Like I think about like Deshaun Jackson, right? Who just announced his retirement, right? But Deshaun was still making an impact in a skill specific type of role by his mid 30s, where I think you see some of the more physical power style players don't necessarily always get there with grace.
All right. So in the next segment here, Kyle and I are going to offer a couple of predictions each for what we think is going to happen with this market over the next 12 months. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
So I think Dez Bryant's you got me down the rabbit hole. I think Dez Bryant's the worst case scenario, and your best case scenario is probably Andre Johnson.
Ooh, talk about elite play strength.
And Andre put up 1,400 yards in his age 32 season.
That was with Shanahan, right?
In 2013. I think Shanahan was in Washington at that point.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that Texans team, right? He was on the Texans still.
Yeah.
Yes. That team went 2-14 and had a 1,400-yard receiver with Wade Phillips and Gary Kubiak.
Kubiak. That was the name I was thinking of. Gary Kubiak. Yeah.
But even case in point, like in the year 32 season, Andre Johnson put up 1,400 yards. He played 3 seasons after that and put up 1,400 yards in the 3 seasons after that and then was done.
What were those ages again?
33, 34, 35. He did
Andre
1,400
Johnson,
yards
wow.
in 33, 34, 35 and did 1,400 yards in year 32 and did 16 in year 31.
Monster, man.
So Jamar Chase, again, year 2 contract, you're going to be great. First half of your year 3 contract, I think you'll be good. But that's kind of your window.
Who was his big rival was Cortland Finnegan?
Yeah, they were the dudes that threw hands.
Oh,
what a
man.
name drop. Cortland Finnegan, too.
You can remember Chris Berman on primetime. Finnegan! You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Berman had some good ones. Hey, a fun fact, since we're talking wide receivers, how many seasons did Andre Johnson have double-digit touchdowns?
Oh, man. I guess 8.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, that's a healthy amount. That's a lot. Maybe less. I'll go 7.
7?
Yeah.
0.
Whoa!
Right.
Whoa, he's got the Julio Jones thing going for him.
Okay,
we're going to be big to win in the red zone.
I'm going to do the thing, okay?
Oh, boy.
4, 6, 2, 5, 8, 8, 9, 8, 2, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2.
Are those his receiving totals?
Those are his
touchdowns.
Those are his per season touchdowns across a 14-year career.
Dude, I would have never thought that.
There's your fun fact for the day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now that we did the Andre Johnson bit and the Dez Bryant bit.
Yeah, exactly.
We can go on to bold predictions.
Hey, anytime you're talking about the wide receiver market going forward in 2023, you got to bring up Dez Bryant. Andre Johnson. Imagine not listening to this podcast. Prediction time?
Yeah, let's do it.
I've got one. Oh, I got 2 because we're supposed to have 2.
We both have 2, but go ahead.
I don't know how I snuck this one through. I very purposely didn't bring up this player for this entire conversation to this point, and it worked. So here's my first prediction. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is extension eligible, is the first 2021 wide receiver to sign a long-term extension with their team.
They should do that like as soon as the season's over, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Because I feel like that's necessary. They love him. They drafted him, right? He's been really productive. But I feel like things are going to get real dicey with the Chase, Waddle, Smith stuff. Right? I mean, those guys are going to push for some bucks, man.
Right.
And in the case of all of the players, there's complicating players on their teams, right? We just talked about the Bengals and all their guys. Waddle's got Hill making tons of money. Smith's got A.J. Brown. You have all three teams that are like, obviously, the Eagles are already paying Hurts, but, we expect something to happen here with Burrow and Tua potentially as well. I think there's some complicated layers there that is going to make St. Brown the first one of those 21 receivers to sign that long-term deal.
I also have an Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh man, so that you probably kept your mouth shut on him as well.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, we're gonna keep going through wide receivers. Okay. Mine's dollar related though.
Ooh.
Amon-Ra St. Brown contract extension will be $24 million per season.
24. Let's go, Kyle.
So here's the breakdown. Tyreek Hill at 30. Amon-Ra ain't touching that. Right?
No.
Devonta Adams at 28. He ain't touching that. Cooper Kupp, 26.7. He's not touching that. Then you go 25, A.J. Brown. DK Metcalf and Stephon Diggs are at 24. Then you go 23.85 Deebo Samuel, 23.2 Terry McLaurin, and then all the way down to DJ Moore at 20.6. So there's your gaps. 25 to 24. And then 23.8 to 20 has 3 players in it, and they're almost all of them are just over 20. So he's either going to land after Terry and be between DJ Moore at 20.6 and Terry at 23.2, or they'll say, look, cap's growing. We're going to get you under contract. We are understanding this wide receiver market is going to continue to compound itself rather quickly. You're averaging over 1,000 yards per season. We expect him as the primary pass catcher to probably go for 1,200 yards again this year.
Yeah.
Put him down for 24, and he'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on the list with 3 primetime contract extensions coming up. He's already going to be a fringe top 10 paid player. So I got him down for 24.
That's bad news for the Bengals. They don't want to hear that.
T's got to be shooting for A.J. Brown money, right? 25 plus.
I'm sure. That's a bold one, Kyle. That's a bold one.
You're going to go out there a little bit.
No, I like it. I like it. If you made me pick, like, if you set the over-under at 24, I'd probably take the under. But I love what you brought to the table there.
By the way, Lions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in projected cap space for 2024, and they have nearly $20 million in rollover cap for this year right now as things currently stand as well.
Got a few bucks.
They got the dollars to spend.
My second prediction's suddenly not very good based on what you just brought to the table.
I'm glad.
So let me get my boring one out of the way, and we get a real cleanup hitter back up to the plate. My second one was we get at least 2 new $20 million AAV wide receiver contracts, which
2
between Higgins and Pittman and St. Brown, it feels like there's probably 3 for sure. But I felt like it had some merit as being bold, considering we didn't touch that this offseason. And I wasn't really sure we would get the extensions, the long-term stuff yet from Chase, Waddle, or Smith. So I was kind of leaning into Higgins and Pittman. And then, as hedges, you have Ridley, or, I don't know if somebody really breaks out between Mooney and Davis or something like that. But I think you get at least 2 $20 million AAV wide receiver contracts, St. Brown, Higgins, Pittman. I think you're most likely contenders there.
My other take is also a little spicy. One of the 2 San Francisco 49ers staples at wide receiver will not return in 2024.
All right. Well, whatever Wednesday we're doing, I'll do better. There's precedent here. I mean, they've traded away players. They've done this. Buckner.
So, and Ayuk is scheduled to play on a $14 million 5th-year option in 2024. $14 million, 1 year fully guaranteed. Deebo was not great last year relative to the standard he set the previous season. There's flexibility with a potential trade for Debo. He's already got 2 void years on the back end of his deal. He'll be 28. He is a player who they get scheme touches to. I don't want to sound like I'm dismissing Debo Samuel's value as a player, but if he misses time again and puts up 700 yards receiving again, and you're scheduled to have a $28 million cap hit that you could potentially transition from as a team that's invested a lot and probably is going to have to continue to try to thread the needle with maintaining as much of your salary cap space as possible.
Future Houston Texan,
the 49ers are projected to be $13 million negative against the cap when the 2024 offseason starts. So they'll have to rearrange some stuff. And are you going to get Ayuk under the big time contract? And you could probably thread the needle and keep them both in 2024 and then move in 2025. But you also, I think if you're going to optimize whatever transition you're going to make as a team that has made no significant draft picks over the last 2 years, I mean, you haven't made a first round pick since when?
It's been a minute.
You didn't pick the top 100 this year.
Man, who was there? It was Ayuk their last first round pick? Trey Lance.
So that's my hot take is I don't know how sustainable that entire nucleus is. And if they're going to maximize a transition window, doing it sooner rather than later would be the way to do it.
Kyle brought the heat today.
Trying. Keep everybody engaged, Hope everybody enjoyed. We have thing called training camp starts this week.
Heard about it. Yeah.
For the vast majority of teams across the league. I'm already enjoying all of the overreactions everybody has on social media to every clip to come out of Jets camp. So I can only imagine when we turn that up 31 times, how fun the timeline is going to be on.
Well, and
X.
It's been just the Jets too, right?
Right.
So.
Needlessly nitpicking everything. It's practice. Let them try stuff.
The updates I don't want are this one. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson went down with a right leg injury and was carted off the field.
When did that come out?
Literally 3 minutes ago.
Well, this podcast is cursed, so we're going to shut it down for the night. Hopefully we get good news on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this discussion on wide receivers and come back and see us again soon. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Make it a great rest of your day. We'll be back again tomorrow. Peace.